Hello, my name is Chris Fernari, the editor of Brewbound, and this is Jane Lothrop, the assistant editor of Brewbound, and we're here at our headquarters in Boston, Massachusetts, where we're fresh off a week from the Craft Brewers Conference in Philadelphia. We spent most of the week canvassing about 500,000 square feet of exhibitor space, talking to brewers from around the country about a variety of issues. One of the things that we were exploring actually was rebrands. We've noticed a lot of companies rebranding or refreshing their look, so we talked to them about what's driving some of these decisions. Jane, what did we find?
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing people were talking about was struggling to stick it on the shelf. With 4,400 breweries right now in operation, it's really hard to stand out on the shelf, so brewers are kind of updating their packaging, whether it's to have sort of outrageous things or more colorful artwork to stick out and get consumers' attention. Another thing that they're trying to do is unify their portfolio so that their brands have more of a unified message to consumers. And then we also talked about the risks of getting into a rebrand and kind of, you know, what that means and how you have to be really careful when you approach this new effort.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's been an onslaught of announcements from brewers around the country. Just, you know, it seems like week in, week out, we're seeing, hey, we've refreshed our look or we've overhauled our packaging. And, you know, it's been guys all the way from, you know, as large as Bell's Brewery to as small as Upland Brewing. Are there a few that stick out in your mind as ones that were executed really, really well?
Yeah, actually, Upland Brewing being one of them. They did a refresh of their Champagne Velvet Lager to kind of make it more like a classic American-style lager, kind of your Grandpappy's lager. I thought they did a really great job with that. It really got across this retro classic look. Was very well done. Another brewery that I was really happy with their rebrand was Abita. They did a great job updating their artwork, kind of making it more stand out on the shelf because it's more colorful and it pops. A lot of their imagery does a better job of telling you what's in the bottle, but more importantly, they did a really great job of you know, conveying the identity of their brewery with their artwork. Kind of harkening back to their roots in New Orleans and being like the true quintessential New Orleans brewery. I thought they did a very good job with that.
Yeah, and both of those brands that you mentioned, very vibrant, colorful feels to them. I mean, both great rebrands. But, you know, there have been some rebrands that were not executed as well. I mean, there's obviously, as you mentioned, some risks associated with doing a rebrand. Yeah. But enough of us talking about the rebrands. Let's hear what the brewers had to say.
Anytime you're making a product, it's about communication between yourself and your customer base, and I think companies are finding that there have been some disconnects in their communication to their customers. The product may be what the customers want, but they're not telling the customer correctly, so whether that's with description on the beer, label, name change, whatever they got to do to communicate better. That's a powerful thing, you know, when you feel like a company is speaking directly to you, like, man, they made this beer for me, this is what I like, this is what I'm into, the art is cool, like everything about it. And so I think that's what it is tailoring that message, and that's why rebranding can be a good thing. You can tailor that message to the crowd you're trying to reach directly.
I just think that's a natural progression, and right now we're going through it specifically because of bringing a new brewery online. But a lot of people are doing it just because they've been around for quite some time, and you know, the shelves are very, very crowded. There's amazing new graphic work that's been going on. Some of these young people have access to Photoshop and Illustrator in a way that we never had 10 and 15 years ago, so they can bang out these gorgeous labels in a way that we weren't able to do a long time ago. So it's exciting. I mean, it's just as exciting for the beer as it is for graphics and packaging and branding.
I think what's driving it is obviously there's a lot of regional brands that have been out for a while that are running into this wall that's been talked about at the conference over and over again, that regional is having a really hard time outside of their region selling beer. I think they're looking at data and equating that to some form of look that they believe they need to catch up to the new consumer. So in some cases, I think they've totally overreached and, you know, knee-jerk reaction. In other cases, it's a nice refresh. My personal opinion is nice refresh to keep it simple is fine. Overhaul of your artwork to become something that you're not, it seems like they're jumping the shark.
I think there are risks to it. You know, customers might be looking for your old brand, just completely miss you, or you might kind of alienate or, you know, hurt, or, you know, people are insanely loyal to breweries and to a brand, and you know, whenever you change that, you risk upsetting kind of the status quo. As far as implementing a successful rebrand, I think it's important to get buy-in from, you know, the whole company and kind of keep everybody on board and aware of what the changes are and why you're making those changes. If you're just making a change to your brand just to, you know, I don't know, it's 2.0 something. That might not necessarily be the best option for you. But if you really have a compelling reason and a story to tell through the rebrand, then I think getting everybody on board and bought in is a super helpful way of accomplishing something successfully.
If you do a bad job of it, then people are going to know, right? If you make a big change and it's not pulled off well, then it's going to really, shake up that ability and maybe discourage people from choosing your beer. What we hope for, especially as we moved into some new markets last year to have less exposure with us, now they get to see a much more consistent branding throughout our entire portfolio, where we have, real visual look for our newer products, and then our old products are different. Now that comes through as a full force. So people that are new to Ninkasi get a much clearer idea of who we are as a total company, and that's really exciting for us.
I mean, it's certainly a risk, and we didn't go into it lightly either. But in the end, and it was kind of funny when we went through this, we had somebody give us a proposal, and everything looked great. And we brought it out to some people, not doing real true test marketing, but sitting on bar stools and said, hey, what do you think of this, or what do you think of that? And someone looked at me and said, isn't Wormtown a couple of guys brewing beer in their garage? And this stuff looks like Nike or Reebok created it. And we said, shit, we're going in the wrong direction. And then we went back and said, all right, we want a brand to look like a couple guys with drunk sitting on a bar. And I think we nailed it. So, you have to be really careful of what your DNA is and make sure you're true to yourself. And if you do that, then there's really no risk in it.